by my favorite composer, Bach. It's a prelude from his first cello suite on viola here. Thanks, Sam. So we start with a piece of music, as opposed to talking about music, because that's more appropriate. My notes disappeared.
You want to hold it?
Oh, here we go. There's a famous quotation that floats around, it's attributed to several different people, and no one seems to be able to get to the bottom who actually said this first. I first heard it in the context of Thelonious Monk, the great jazz pianist, having been quoted saying, "Writing about music is like dancing about architecture." So I'll preface my my presentation here by saying what I'm going to say here and what we'll discuss later is has to be understood from the perspective of art and not science. This is not psychology, it's not neurology. I mean, you can study all those things, you can quantify those concepts, but that's not the experience of art is paramount. And I love a quotation from St. Francis of Assisi: "Preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words." So, I'd like to say, actually, I gave this presentation to Unity Church last week, and afterwards, my wife and I were kind of doing a post-mortem. She said, "Well, it was good. There were a bunch of good points, but it seemed like there wasn't you didn't make a point and prove it. And I said, well, that was the intention. It's like when you're speaking about something like this, it's better to put this out there and put this out there and put this out there, and then people can make connections for themselves. Mm-hmm. It's not like I'm trying to get up here and make a point and prove it or something. Right. So, my favorite psychologist is Jung, and if you read much Jung, it's like he'll talk about a topic and he'll kind of circle around it and swoop around and kind of look at it from this angle, and then he never really tells you exactly what the point is. You have to kind of surmise what the point is, and I think it's richer for that rather than his saying, okay, this, and this. So, all that having been said about how we can't really talk and write about music, I'm going to turn around and give you guys a few quotes from history here that I love that kind of set the tone for the presentation. From Plato, music is moral law. It gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, a charm to sadness, and life to everything. It is the essence of order and leads to all that is good, just, and beautiful, of which it is the invisible, but nevertheless dazzling, passionate, and eternal form. Also from Plato, musical training is a more potent instrument than any other because rhythm and harmony find their way into the inward places of the soul. Also from Plato, I would teach children music, physics, and philosophy, but most importantly music, for in the patterns of music and all the arts are the keys of learning. Also from Plato, music is the movement of sound to reach the soul for the education of its virtues. His Greek compatriot here, Aristotle. Music directly represents the passions of the soul. If one listens to the wrong kind of music, he will become the wrong kind of person. A little later, Boethius, the great philosopher of the early church, music is part of us and either enables or degrades our behavior. Later on, St. Augustine, he who sings well prays twice. And more recently, Robert Browning, there is no truer truth obtainable by man than comes of music. Aldous Huxley, after silence, that which comes the nearest to expressing the inexpressible is music. And Schopenhauer, the effect of music is so very much more powerful and penetrating than all of the other arts, for these others speak only of the shadow, but music is of the essence. So, like I said, you can't really talk about it. You have to experience it. But on the other hand, it's nice to have kind of a conceptual bed on which we can begin our discussion here. It's a pretty good collection of some pretty smart folks through history there. I'm going to start with defining music. If you look up music in the dictionary, you'll find various different allusions to harmony or form or whatnot. And those kind of Webster definitions kind of went out in the modern era. And I prefer, my own personal definition of music is sounds organized in such a way as to communicate intent, emotion, or concepts. Okay, so that could be, this chime right here. One little stroke of the mallet. This is a very cool chime, by the way. One little stroke of the mallet communicates intention. There, so you don't have to have form. You don't have to have harmony. You don't have to have those elements of music. It's just sound organized in such a way as to communicate something. Okay, so but the energy of intention, the energy of intent underneath the music, ultimately, is what gives it any meaning that it has. Music communicates these nonverbal, transcendent experiences, the realities that we sense, and music is a way that it's kind of brought into a tangible form that can be expressed from one person to another, or experienced by another person. But intentionality is, like I said, I think the essence of what music is. People talk about, oh, I want to express myself with my music or whatnot. There's an old saying, once again, it's been attributed to many different people. I heard Philip Glass say it one time. You know, a baby, when he's hungry, is crying or angry or whatnot, and he's expressing himself, but you call that art. So just the idea that you're expressing yourself is not art and it's not music. So there has to be some intentionality for music to be an art form. I like to make a point with my students sometimes. I'm going to put my hand on his shoulder. Okay? Now what was the meaning of that right there? What could be possible meanings of my putting my hand on his shoulder?
Trying to comfort him.
Trying to comfort him, maybe? What else?
Greeting.
Greeting him, getting his attention. What else?
Like a good job.
Good job. Confirmation, affirmation. What else?
Affection.
Affection. Okay.
But it can also be used to manipulate.
It could be. Okay. So any of those things, the physical act of my putting my hand on his shoulder could be in every other way identical, but the entire meaning of my putting my hand on his shoulder depends on my intentionality. Okay, so we all have these radar dishes on our heads, and we know what people's intentions are. Even if we have no other quantifiable way to organize the thoughts or whatnot, we just have a gut feeling of what people's intentions are. Like my intentions right there were none of those things. My intentions right there were just to make a point. So there was really no emotional connection between us or anything. If I wanted to comfort him, I could put my hand there. That's what would be communicated. So music in and of itself is the vessel and the intentionality of what is what the person creating the music desires to do is what the meaning of music is. Okay. The name of the program here, actually I forgot to introduce the program itself. The name of the program is Music as a Path to Numinous Experience. And I first encountered that term numinous experience reading Jung. It has a couple of Latin roots. Numen is the Latin term for divinity or divine presence, divine will. Cicero wrote of the divine mind, okay, which early on meant that this divine mind would impose its will or impose its consciousness on people without their having any power to do anything about it. Okay, it came into more modern usage with Rudolf Otto. His book in the 1920s, the idea of the holy. He coined the term numinous based on this Newman, and it's used. This term is used to describe the inexpressible quality of the sacred spiritual experience. It's related to another term, Latin term he used, mysterium tremendum, which means the absolute, the uncanny, supernatural. Carl Jung, following on this term numinous, went back to another Latin term related to numinosum, which means a dynamic agency that has the ability to affect one's consciousness independent of one's will. It can either be visible, like this chime, tangible, or it can be completely outside the physical realm. But it's essential to Jung's concept is that it brings some alteration of consciousness. It means for Jung a person, place, thing, situation that creates a deep emotional resonance that's psychologically connected to the self. So for Jung, the heart and soul of his practice and his study and everything was numinous experience, because he thought that is the key to spiritual emotional healing, is this contact with the divine. Just to put a cap on the discussion of the term numinous, some English words and phrases which kind of paint the picture of what numinous experience would be love, transcendence, deep peace, ecstasy, trance, wonderment, wholly other, contact with the source of being, power, presence, realization of divinity. Okay, so these things happen spontaneously often, and they can happen in many contexts. But how does music foster the circumstances in which a person may experience numinosity? Well, first of all, every person experiences this sense of wonderment. All these words we can use, and sometimes they can be. It's not like circumstances conspire to create this situation, because they can't do that. But just like with religion, numinous experience is the basis of religion. What all religion really is people trying to codify and trying to capture this numinous experience. And so they said, okay, we create these set of ideas, these set of experiences, this music, this liturgy, whatnot, and hopefully that will foster this. So we have, religion, the arts, sacred spaces, intimate relationships. Ironically, one of the things that you hear some people may have experienced this here, we'll find out in the talkback session, dangerous, life-threatening experiences can carry us to a place of numinous experience. How many times have you, like I said, may have experienced this, or you've heard about some, the mother lifting the car or something like that off the child or whatnot. It's a connection to a power that's other than the self. And so, like I said, ironically, even dangerous situations can do that. So, music in and of itself, though, with the correct intentionality of the artists and the circumstances and whatnot, can at least kind of slough off the everydayness of our experience and help us to get to that place where we're open to it, at least. And then we can't force it to happen. And sometimes, like I said, it just happens driving down the road. You just have some sense of something. It can be for a second, or it can be for a few minutes, or it can. But it's timeless when it happens. It's like the connection, T.S. Eliot's, the intersection of eternity and time. That's that little window into this other reality. So, one of the ways that music does this is it grounds us in physical reality, because vibrations are the stuff of the physical universe. I mean, everybody understands at this point that nothing is really solid. Everything is actually just energy vibrating when you get down to the smallest level. So, physical reality is this, of course the Greeks called it the mind of God, logos, the rational organizational principle that gives form and shape to everything. So, talk about the harmony of the spheres here in a minute, which we read in the which we talked about in the reading here. So there's this incarnate physicality to music that where it brings in, it opens a portal to this other world that we experience, with our brains and through our nervous system and everything, and we have this emotional experience. Like I said, so there's a physical aspect to it, but there's also this open door to this ethereal world of ideas, mind of God, divinity, grace, that somehow these two things kind of bring us together in our experience in this three-dimensional plane here as human beings. Music has a special place because it deals directly with both of those things. All the way, like I said, from the foundation of the universe, just vibrations, all the way to these concepts like love and grace that ultimately give our lives meaning. And actively participating in music. I mean, we're here, we sing congregational hymn, we listen to music and everything. Just the vibrations coming into your body and the breath of your body vibrating through your vocal cords and your chest and your head, and your body is moving and you're experiencing this in a very intimate, incarnate, direct kind of way that grounds it and makes it real for us. We have this in medieval chants. If you go to hear Tibetan monks or Gregorian chant or whatnot, you're not going to have an experience of something that's going to get you all excited or whatnot. That's not what that's about. It's about bringing this space inside yourself, opening it up so this energy can come in. Once again, though, it's like these perfect example of that. These Tibetan monks who do the throat singing and stuff. They're making their bodies vibrate in such a way as to connect to something very deep and archetypal. It has an effect on the whole being, and it has an effect not on just on the artist producing the sound, but on the listener too. So listening is not a passive thing. Listening should be, the higher your level of consciousness, the higher, the more actively you listen, the more you experience. I had a wonderful experience. In 1985, is anybody here familiar with the Modern Jazz Quartet? Anybody listen to them? I have one person here.
No, another one.
Another one? Okay.
Sure.
I saw the Modern Jazz Quartet in 1985, and at that point, they had been playing together since '46. Okay, so they continued to play until just a few years ago. So they were there at the very beginning. They started as Dizzy Gillespie's rhythm section in his big band. And then they had this long, productive career. And at the point that I saw them in '85, although they continued to perform for another couple of decades, when I saw them, they were the elder statesmen, these four old black guys walk out in these black tuxedos, and they have the red kerchief, and they walk out, and there's just air about these people that they are somehow or another special. And they sat down, and I was about as far as from here to that piano from John Lewis, the pianist. So I could actually hear the sound coming off the stage more than through the PA, because they didn't play at loud volumes or whatnot. And I remember having the music wash over me. And, as a musician myself, there are ego issues. Can I play this? Can I play that? This person can play this thing I can't play. I want to play this person's music. I can play something somebody else can't play. There are all these divisions, when in your mind as an artist between you and the other, sometimes the audience, sometimes other musicians, whatnot. I remember, though, having a numinous experience listening to the Modern Jazz Quartet as they performed had this spontaneous realization that there's no difference between me and John Lewis. It's like he happened to be the one whose physical body was pushing the key down on the piano. But the depth of their artistry transcended the limitations of the divisions between people. It gives me goosebumps thinking about it right now. It's like there was no difference between them and the audience, no difference between his mind and my mind. It's like it all flowed together. And it was an utterly transcendent, utterly numinous experience. And these jazz musicians, and they played with such incredible power and grace and ease. They didn't force anything. And they immediately could go to that place of just like when I pick up my violin and I play, the first thing that happens is everything else stops, and all that's happening is I just hear the sound of the instrument. So it's like this meditative state when I'm playing where nothing else is there. And they were so strong, they were able to do that for an entire room of 1,000 people. And they probably did that every night. And so somehow or another, they were special in their ability to bring this. But you could tell that they had transcended their specialness to where we were just all there together. So I hadn't intended on talking about that, but it brings to bear really what is essential about music. I'd like to mention, we talked about the harmony of the spheres here. How many people are familiar with that Greek concept? Several people are familiar with that. The Greeks, as per Pythagoras, and then later, this idea was developed in Christian thought by Boethius, that the music of the spheres, the harmony of the spheres, that how everything was coordinated, and the heavens, how everything worked perfectly and everything, that was a manifestation of the mind of God, Logos. And if they could bring music down to earth and communicate music with one another, we could bring that kind of harmony and peace in the mind of God to human society and to individuals. And that would bring together pathos, the emotional experience, the feeling tone of the heavens, and it would bring together ethos, character, and it would be a transformational experience for individuals and for society. I was blessed to be commissioned to compose a liturgical mass for the Lutheran Church a few years ago. The entire mass is based on Pythagorean concepts of symmetry and the Fibonacci series, where if you have 1 plus 2, you get 3, 2 plus 3, you get 5, 3 plus 8, and then 8 plus 5, and so on. So once you get past the initial few numbers, everything is basically a ratio of 1 to 1.6. And so that's the basis of what we understand as the golden mean, and we find that everything from the shapes of galaxies to a subatomic level. So there's something deep and archetypal about that. So I'm going to play for you guys a piece that was from one of the meditations from the liturgy that is based on this idea of the harmony of the spheres. It's written in a minimalist style. Minimalism is kind of like homeopathic medicine. You get the main thing, and then you just get a few molecules of change, and you hear the harmonics of the way the notes are interacting with one another and whatnot, and but it's just that little bit that you need to communicate the essence of what it is, the intention of the piece to begin with. By the way, the violin, I heard this and I can't trace the quotation. Some some philosopher in the 19th century said that the violin is the highest manifestation, physical manifestation of human experience, because it basically embodies, in one way or another, everything that's best about human beings. And everything from the design having to do with the golden mean. Look at the scroll there. There's your golden spiral there. And the whole design, all the math and everything, it's insanely complicated. And these people in the Italian Renaissance who developed the violin, they just made that intuitive connection. And they were operating in a different paradigm also, based more on neoclassical ideas that hadn't been hardened by the scientific revolution yet. So, and then of course what you can do with the violin, it's incredible. So I wish I could find who said that, but I always remember that. So, thank you. We should start to draw things to a close here a little bit. I might want a couple more points I want to make. We started out saying dancing about architecture. I believe, and most musicians believe, even famous songwriters believe that melody and rhythm are more important than words. I thought it was kind of funny. I was going to make this point. Do you guys realize, Bill, excuse me, what did Bill play for the prelude this morning?
Tennessee Waltz.
Tennessee Waltz. Okay, who knows what that song is, quote, about?
Some guy taking some other guy's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about some guy stealing his girl. Okay, so was that the intentionality that Bill had when he played Tennessee Waltz this morning? No, it wasn't at all, was it? So if the words are the most important thing, you think, well, that's the worst song you could play for the prelude for this service this morning. So, but the words aren't important. They're you know, sometimes just to make money. They're there, you know, for sometimes very enlightened reasons or whatnot, but they're always secondary. So Bill played Tennessee Waltz because it's a great melody and it's a nice chord progression, and it communicated his intentionality, which had nothing to do with cheating on somebody or stealing his best friend's wife, you know. So Bill, you gave me a perfect example. I mean, yeah, the melody and rhythm are more important. Those are the vehicles through which these deeper transcendent realities are communicated. Words only come just, you know, maybe in the ballpark at best. Another point I want to make is that the Bible says man is created in the image of God. For me, what that's always meant is that, I mean, what is it to be created in the image of God? I think our creativity is at its root the meaning of that phrase, and so music brings together all these different media, and where you know, obviously a sculptor does this, and a poet does this, a dancer does this, whatnot. But for me, music is the way that it manifests itself in my life, where that experience of divinity, it's like as you create music, or as if you actively listen to music, whether you're the one playing or not, like we said, doesn't really matter. If you experience music, in a way, you fine-tune your consciousness into a way that you realize on many different levels that you are divine yourself. There's not just God out there and, you know, He doles out some amount of something to us, and if we say the right words, we get that or whatnot. We have the power within ourselves actively to participate in the arts and music in particular here, in a way, like I said, that makes us recognize the divinity in ourselves and one another.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.